Hi there, I'm your host Manuela, and this is the Say Yes to Live in Spirit and Mind journey, where we provide a safe space for healing, transformation, and evolution. I'm glad to have you join me today as we talk about using exposure therapy to overcome fear. Now, I understand that some of us may not have heard of exposure therapy or know what it means, so I'm going to explain it hopefully as simply as I can. Exposure therapy basically is a form of cognitive behavioral therapy that helps you to systematically and gradually overcome your fears, phobias, and anxiety in a way that's not too overwhelming and in a way that gives you long lasting results as opposed to regressing in whatever changes occur during the process of the treatment. Um, and there are a couple studies that have shown that exposure therapy works effectively. Also, from a biblical standpoint, we see that exposure therapy is effective. Other than the fact that God warns us a couple of times not to be afraid, meaning the Bible actually encourages us to work on our fears. We see men like David who start off as shepherd boys, right? And then they overcome obstacles right until, in the case of David, he faces Goliath and then he becomes a king. And we also see Moses. Moses runs away after he commits murder, and he has all these other things that are hindrances in his life and that discourage him from going where God wants him to go. But he works on himself and he obeys God one step at a time till he gets to the palace. I'm going to go over the steps to using exposure therapy. The first step would be to make a list. Make a list of all your fears, all your phobias, and if you want to use this on anxiety as well, then make a list of that. But today I'll just be focusing on fears. Make a list of your fears. You can categorize them. For example, if you have fear of going to the gym and fear of going out to eat, that could be just a fear of being in social settings. You could categorize that under one, but if you think if you would rather just not categorize, that's fine as well, but just make a list of your fears and then take one at a time. I always encourage taking one at a time because that helps you to focus on that one, and focus builds precision and quality, and it helps us achieve things in a short period of time as opposed to channeling our energies into working on so many things at a time. So even if you have a lot of fears, I know you might be excited to get over all of them all at once, but that's not advisable. So just pick one fear at a time from all the list of fears you've made and make a ladder of how you plan to work on it. Like I said about King David and Moses, just start small gradually until you get to where you can. Say for example you're scared to, and one of the examples I saw online that I like very much is, say you're scared to talk to people or to sit at a diner in social settings. You could start by, first of all, sitting at the door, close to the door where you have easy access to run out if anything goes wrong. If whatever you think might go wrong goes wrong, you can leave. And then you sit there for a couple times a week, and then gradually you make your way to the center of the diner, basically. Where there are no door accesses and you can easily run if anything happens. But you start at the door because, like I said, it has to be a gradual process so it doesn't overwhelm you and then discourage you from actually working on or getting over the fear. So that's what the ladder is about. Just making tactics that could help you overcome it just gradually, one step at a time. All right, make a ladder, and then things to consider on the ladder: length of time. For example, if you're scared to, I'm just going to keep using the same example so I don't have to think of too many, but if you're scared to talk to people in a social setting, you could start just at 30 minutes. Or if you're scared, like in the diner scenario, you could sit at the diner, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds. You could sit at the diner for like 30 seconds, or you could talk to someone for 30 seconds. That's less intimidating than talking for 5, 10, 20 minutes. So you could start there. So length of time. The time of the day, consider when you have most energy, or when the diner will be not as full. For example, diners tend to be fuller in the evenings, so maybe you want to go like in the morning or afternoon when there is not too many people there. If you're scared of driving and you want to start driving again, you might want to start You might want to drive like at a time of the day where most people are at work, and you know you're less likely to run into other cars and things like that. So length of time, time of day, and just your environment in general, and people who are there with you. If it's a fear you're ashamed to be around other people, like family and friends. If you don't want family and friends there just because you're ashamed of how things might turn out, then you want to, avoid going with other people. But if you feel like you need the support of your family and friends, then you might want to explain to them what you're going through and how they can help you, how they could just being around you might help you or make you more comfortable to overcome the fears. For example, fear of going to a diner, just having a family member or friend around might make you less fearful, right? So just, and also considering your environment, basically, so like I said, when it comes to environment, it's just a whole case of sitting at the door versus gradually making your way to the center. You don't want to put yourself at the center of the diner immediately, because it might just you might flare up your nerves to the point where you feel the need to run away, basically. And then the third part will be just working on the exposure itself. So now you've made a list, you've picked the one you want to work on, and you've made a plan on how you plan to get there. The ladder that starts small and then goes up. Think of it more of as an inverted pyramid or a triangle that's inverted. You know how typically the bottom is wider? Well, in this case, your bottom is smaller, and then you grow and grow and grow and grow with each step, right? And then you make your plan. You decide what time of day, what environment you will be putting yourself in, if there will be friends and family there, or if not, and things like that. So after that, you decide, after you've made all these plans, you go ahead and you launch, and you do it gradually, and you do it till you're comfortable doing that. You stay at that phase. For example, with the scenario of the diner, you stay at the end of the diner till you're comfortable there. The first day you go there, you're probably not very comfortable. You're fidgety. You stay there for a couple seconds and you run out. You come the next day, stay there for a couple seconds, maybe even shorter than the next day, because I don't encourage perfection. You don't necessarily have to do better than you did the day before. Some days you may fall short, some days you may do good. Either way, you're consistent. You go there every day till you notice you can spend 30 minutes, 50 minutes at the end of the diner with the door, and then you notice you're very comfortable there, comfortable enough to the point where you can move to, the middle, if there is a middle. I hope this scenario is working out for everyone, because it's working out nice in my head, but I just realized that it may not work out for everyone, but I hope this is working. But you go to the middle, you stay there for as long, you get comfortable there till you can finally make your way to the center of the diner and sit at a table at the center of the diner and not feel the need to run or leave. And then you've faced that fear and you've overcome it, and you use the same principle pretty much all over again. So the things to know here are just you being consistent. It's okay, like I said, it's okay to fail sometimes, but you have to get back up in the process of using exposure therapy. That's the only way it'll work. You don't go there, realize you got scared, run out, and then just never show up again, or just never use whatever tactics you do decide to use. And the sixth step is to reward behavior. Say you stay at the end of the diner, maybe reward yourself with a treat from the diner. If you're not comfortable doing that, go out, go to the store or something, and reward yourself with a chocolate or something. I'll let you in on a secret. I used to be very nervous about just going out on dates and hanging out with people. So when I met my boyfriend for the first time, after our date, we ate a lot, but after our date, I actually went to ShopRite, and then I got myself a box of chocolate as a reward. And it was nice knowing that I did that for myself, because on the next date, I was like, you know what? Whatever happens at the end of this, I'm getting chocolate. So that was very helpful for me. Yeah. So yeah, that's the point. Reward yourself so you know it teaches you that no matter what happens, you have your own back. No matter what happens through the whole process, you you can still get to go out there and get yourself chocolate. You can still get to be happy, right? That's what rewards do for us. So those are the steps. Now, a couple disclaimers. First thing we need to be careful about is the things that we have a tendency to run towards when we're afraid or when we're anxious. Some people try to numb their feelings with alcohol, food, drugs, social media, television, just hanging out with friends to the point where you know you're not being productive. So that's something else you need to make a list of. Just make a list of things that you tend to run towards that aren't actually helpful or productive, and have replacement habits for those things. Say whatever it is you do, you could replace eating with something else, maybe going on a walk, going out of your house where you can't find food easily, just going on a walk. Or you could replace social media with meditation and doing your breath walk and just looking on the inside of your reflecting, and yeah, that's the gist. So observe the things you tend to run to, what tends to be your weakness when you're afraid or anxious, and replace them. Look for replacement habits. Do all this before you start using exposure therapy on yourself, because that way you already have a plan in place, and when these things come, you recognize them and you already have the habits in place to replace them with, right? And another disclaimer is to not rush the process. Like I said earlier, work on one fear at a time. Don't rush the process at all, and let it take however long as it wants to take. I would encourage some people, this is a very tricky advice. I would encourage some people to set a time limit on when they want to get over their fear, but I would also, there are certain people I would encourage not to do that. The people who I would encourage to set a time limit on their fear would be those who have a tendency to procrastinate or a tendency to just let things slide, basically. But those who I would not encourage to do that are those who are very hard on themselves, people who tend to be like go-getters and are hard on themselves when they don't get something achieved and things like that. Those people need to learn to just relax and go with the flow of the process. And those who have a tendency to procrastinate to the point where they don't do anything may need more strict rules around just getting over their fears, right? And also, I wanted to touch on letting go of idealized outcomes. This has to do with fear, but not necessarily exposure therapy. So more often than not, the reason why we're afraid is because there is an expected outcome in our heads. Somehow we think that talking in public would lead to people laughing at us, or we think that going to the gym would lead to other people in the gym shaming us, or whatever it is. There's always a scenario in our head that that makes us scared. If you're scared of snakes, which is a sensible fear, if you're scared of snakes, it's probably because when you go around a snake, it's gonna bite you, right? So there's always an outcome attached to a fear. So just observe whatever outcomes you've already idealized in your head. And as you work on your fears, just realize how those outcomes were never really true in the first place. It's more often than not an over exaggeration in our heads or a lie. So just as you work on it, you could journal or write how these idealized outcomes or fears dissipate, as you use exposure therapy. So I guess it was kind of connected to exposure therapy. And also conquer your what if thoughts. Personally, when a what if thought comes into my head, a what if thought is basically like, what if this happens, what if that happens, what if this happens. I like to conquer every what if thought with another what if thought. It's like, for example, I'm trying to think of a very sensible one, because the what if thought that just came to my head is not sensible at all. Let's see. Say for example, you want to start a business. How basic is that? I could have just, you want to start a business, right? You think, what if I fail? And then you conquer your what if I fail thought with, what if I succeed? What if the sky falls? What if pigs grow wings and fly? What if dragons become unicorns? You could what if to the ends of the earth. But the truth is, what ifs don't do anything for anyone. The only way to know for a fact is by doing. That's the point of conquering what if thoughts. Okay? And visualizations. I have a very nice visualization that I came up with yesterday that I'm actually going to talk more on, but that will be more towards the end. But yeah, doing visualizations, you wake up in the morning and you sit in your bed while you're meditating. You can also visualize how your day is going to go, visualize in a positive light how you working on your fear is going to go. For example, going back to the scenario of the diner, before you go to the diner, you can visualize yourself sitting at the diner and having such a good time you actually don't want to leave. Now, this isn't what's happening in real life. Chances are you may not even go that way on the first day, but visualizations help you stay focused on your goal, on your target, and hopefully help you move your energy and your life in the direction of what you visualize. So it's going back to conquering what if thoughts and letting go of idealized outcomes. Visualization actually helps you focus more on the positive as opposed to the negative things, right? So visualizations and remembering to breathe through these activities. This is just a very basic therapy advice. Being in a fearful situation, in an anxious situation, can make us want to hold our breaths. But remembering, which is why I also encourage doing breath walks, not even in that scenario, just as part of your life routine, just doing breath walks. So you remember to breathe and breathe effectively when you're in that scenario. So if you tend to talk fast like me, I feel like I've been talking fast this whole video, but if you tend to talk fast like me, or you just want to run away, your flight mode is activated, just remember to breathe and slow down and observe and breathe and slow down and observe and count in your head, and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5, and you get the gist. Okay, so remember to breathe. I'm just making sure I've gone over everything I was going to say before I get to the visualizations. Okay, we're at the point of the visualization, so I'm just gonna read from here. Bear with me. So one visualization that I think would be effective, like I said, I actually don't know if it's effective yet because I just came up with it last time, but it felt good to me. In the process of using exposure therapy and helping you overcome your fears, you could see yourself as a lion, or whatever strong animal you choose. You see yourself as a lion and you are running away from a dragon. A lion running away from a dragon seems pretty valid, because you don't want to get burned to crisp or ashes by the fire coming out of this dragon's mouth. You're running away, and as you're running, you see like a body of water, and you see your reflection, and then you suddenly remember you're a lion, you're the king of the jungle. I mean, it's a dragon, but you're the king of the jungle. And so you decide to somehow face this dragon because your people, your subjects in the jungle need your help. And so you decide, you know what, I'm going to go back and face this lion. Damn the consequences. And so you start going backwards towards the lion, and then you start to realize, wait, I've actually never heard this dragon's voice before. I've actually never seen its fire. I've actually never even seen the dragon. I've only seen its shadow. And as you're going closer, you notice the shadow is getting smaller until you get to the lion. Why do I keep saying it? Until you get to the dragon, and it's not even a dragon, it's a lizard. And the only reason why it had such a big shadow is because there was a ray of light. You know how sometimes light magnifies shadows. So the whole time you were just seeing a lizard who was going about his day, living his life freely. The whole time you thought it was a dragon and you were running. It kind of is what fear is most of the time. Once you start using exposure therapy to work on your fear, you see that your fear is most likely just not true. Basically, fear is more than likely a lie. There are some reasonable fears. Being scared of a lion or a dragon, like I just said, that's a reasonable fear. That's a fear that's based on survival. But there are fears that are not based on survival, and those are the fears I'm talking about. The ones that stop us from reaching our potential and reaching our goals in life. And that's why we need to work on them. Because working on them, takes us a step closer or a couple steps closer to reaching our goals and to working on things that we would otherwise stop ourselves or hinder ourselves from working on. All right, so I hope this was very helpful, and I hope my visualization was helpful as well, even though I kept mixing up the lion and the dragon. But I hope that helped. And you could definitely share with me how exposure therapy goes for you. And if you have any questions, inquiries, you need in need of coaching or anything like that, I'll be leaving my email below. Yeah, and I was gonna say something else. Right. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and even if you don't like it, dislike it as well. I need feedback in general to know how I'm doing. So yeah. Thank you for your time. And thank you for listening to the end. Bye bye.